Alright, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us for Touhou Folklores and Legends. I am Old Man Gibbler.
I'm Yonderin.
I'm Trev.
Yes, Trev.
This is my pawn shop.
This is my...
We never know what's gonna come in.
Now, while I am doing most of the speaking, so will my beard. You will obey the beard. If you don't, I got my reinforcement over here. He's medical, but he could be the bad kind of medical. You know, the kind that just makes you feel comfortable until you pass on.
So we're gonna kick that.
No.
Why am I gonna say anything?
Jeez.
I've got stuff to say later. So we might as well start with what started all this off. What is considered the oldest Japanese monogatari, and also the source of probably the best character in the Touhou fan base. Well, in the Touhou Project, period, and that's Kaguya Hirai. So why don't you just go on to the next slide?
So opinionated.
It's because it's true. There's a difference between opinion and fact. I'm stating facts, okay? See you there.
Just get to the story.
Okay, so we have the flight of the bamboo cutter, the tale of the bamboo cutter, which is the oldest story that is recorded. It's about a childless bamboo cutter and his wife who they find the Princess Kaguya in a bamboo shoot in the middle of the bamboo forest. And he takes her home and raises her as his own child. Is paid by the moon, keeps finding gold in the bamboo shoots. So she grows up to be beautiful, and you can see some of the art that's about it, like up there at the top, right hand side, that's when he finds the Kaguya in there. And then she grows up to be extraordinarily beautiful. Her beauty is known throughout the land, and 5 princes left.
Real quick, I scoured the internet trying to find the oldest images I could. Apparently those predate, I don't know, the 1200s?
1500s. The cuts were.
Cuts were? Yeah. Then that person lied to me.
Well, it's the internet. Everything on the internet is true, right? Bonjour.
Bonjour.
So 5 princes seek her hand. All 5 are given impossible tasks. They have to retrieve the begging bowl of Buddha, the jeweled branch of the Horai, the robe of the fire rat, a multicolored jewel from a dragon's neck, and a cowrie shell from the swallows. And of course, they can't because she's already got all these treasures. And she, as each suitor comes and tries to give her an imitation treasure, she knows that it's false, and so she shames them, and they go and commit suicide. Kind of the dark side of the tale. So then the Emperor of Japan comes and asks for her hand in marriage, and while that's very flattering, she can't because she's from the moon and she's not from this world. But she can't tell anybody until she's looking at the moon one night and she realizes that the moon's going to come back and reclaim her. So she tells her adopted parents, and her adopted parents tell the Emperor of Japan, and the Emperor of Japan tries to muster the entire army to defend her. They fail. You can see here the Celestials are coming back to take Kaguya back home. So Kaguya gives the elixir of immortality to the Emperor. The Emperor, not wanting to live forever without knowing, or without having Kaguya by his side for eternity, goes up to Mount Fuji and dumps it in the volcano.
And that's pretty much the birth of the goddess of Mount Fuji. And that is actually the birth of Shinto itself. But before we get into that, we like to take you out and let you know that for the bamboo cutter, there are cards, trading cards. You can trade with your friends, families, and even some enemies, depending on who they are. The Moon Knights you can't trade with because they're greedy. And
we're not greedy. But buy something.
Buy something. We got the trading card. We got a 12-pack for $8.99. You got a 15-pack for $12.99 and a 20-pack for $16.99. Quite a good deal. You should get some. They are going fast.
No refunds.
Oh, they're already gone.
Yep, they're already gone. Too late. But now we bring you back to the borderland, where we take you to the Shinto and to the shrine. The Hakura Shrine. This is pretty much on the border of fantasy and reality. Usually when you... What?
Said the Great Hakure border.
You had to point that out, didn't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Apparently it's laid somewhere between this bunny and what you can't see. That will be the Great Border in Uju, and you'll never see. But the shrine is operated by Reimu Hakura. She makes sure everything behaves and all that fun stuff. But who cares about her? Let's talk about those gods. Shinto's quite known for a lot of gods. I mean, there's a god for everything. There's probably even a god for this weird do he has going on.
Yes.
There's a god of metal.
God of metal. Actually, I think there's about 3 gods of metal.
Yes. There's Monomar, Black Sabbath, and Iron Maiden.
So we could spend about 2-3 hours trying to figure out what gods are what. Instead, I'm just going to go over 3 different gods. And goddess too. I picked out 3. Where I picked these out from was actually from one of the Touhou mangas that really goes into depth about the Shinto gods and the battle they have with them. The first one, we're going to do the middle one, which is a very popular god.
Ameterasa Domikamu.
Thank you. That is a mouthful, isn't it? She is probably one of the most popular goddess in the Shinto religion. Of course, she's the goddess of the sun, brightness, life, everything. She is the most positive influence of the gods. So, of course, she's going to be the most popular. You want positivity in your life, don't you?
If you've played the PS2 game Okami, same deity.
Yeah, that's the one with the wolf, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Amaterasu.
And we got a little bit more of a difficult god.
Matsu Mikaboshi.
This one started off as a pretty good god, but now he's known as the god of curse and corruption. Any Shinto shrine that really uses this considers the land around them to be corrupt, and you cannot walk on that land unless you want to be cursed for the rest of your life, kind of deal. Which explains those high wooden sandals. The higher up you are from the ground, the more pure you are. And apparently along the lines, the Moonanites think that living on the moon meant they were super pure.
We don't have to wear sandals on the moon.
And the next one is the most weird, but, well, I'll explain her a little bit more.
Is that an N or an R?
Izanomi.
That's an N.
Izunomi.
Yeah.
Izunomi.
Izunomi is based on an old tale where her husband actually went and got her from Shinto hell, which is called Yumi. And in this tale, after she died, she of course went down, did the usual hell things. Her husband ran down to get her because he couldn't accept the fact that she was dead, or else he would kill himself. And of course, all these stories are killing themselves or someone dying, pretty dark, yeah. And but the happy ending is he does save her, and the great demon that was chasing them somehow was stopped by a boulder that was blocking the path into hell. I guess that was some kind of kryptonite boulder, I don't know. It can move a lot of things, but it can't move a boulder. But after that, she bathed in a type of special bath water, and she became a goddess that way. And that's, there's several different ways to become a god. Either you're born a god, or you can become a god. And when another popular Touhou character that became a god is, of course, our green-haired beauty. Maybe she's born.
Yeah.
And yeah, she's a good girl. She's a bad girl. Well, it depends how you look at her.
Maybe she's born with it. Maybe it's not a.
Maybe you're born with it. Well, she definitely wasn't born with goddess power. She actually developed them after she, was it before or after she moved to Tokyo? It was probably.
It was after.
Yeah, it was after. And this is one way to become a god. Either you worship, you take a special bath, you worship certain gods or goddess, and they're like, hey, you're good enough to become one of us.
You live long enough.
You live long enough. we'll go different ways of how to become a god. And speaking of gods that are kind of like her, she's green, or she has green hair, and she uses the power of miracles and wind. Oh, there's another guy that's kind of like that. They kind of look the same, don't they? This is Fuji, the wind goddess, who is a little bit more ill-tempered and probably not as good as the...
That's a goddess.
No, it's a god.
You said goddess.
Oh, my bad. I get my words jumbled up. But yes, it is a god that uses the power of the wind, and depending on how pleased he feels, he'll either give you a hurricane or give you a nice pleasant breeze to get rid of that heat off your face. And going along with that, we talked a little bit about Shinto. We can still talk about Shinto, but let's move on to something a little bit more. Let's talk about other kind of mythology. Who can tell me what this one is? No one? You in the back. What is this?
Shout it out.
Me?
Yes, you. Shout it out.
Now you make me forget.
Okay.
I
You.
know the character though. It's
Oh, hold on. What'd you say?
I'm not sure if it's the correct pronunciation, but Yagami-Tarasu.
Yes.
Yes.
Yagami-Tarasu.
Also known as the three-legged crow. Now, there are different mythologies in these, depending on what you want to go with. In Japanese mythology, they are the guiding light. There's one tale where it guides an emperor across Japan to bring it together. In China, it's a little bit different. There's apparently 10 sons of these. And they actually bring up the sun and light the world to produce crops and all that stuff. And there's actually a fun little story I'll tell you a little bit about later. It's goes along with one of our other characters much later in the story. But what does the three-legged crow has to do? Well, we have our own favorite three-legged crow that goes around here. Probably not as bright as the sun, but she's still considered the three-legged crow because she accidentally ate one. Because someone told her they were delicious.
Was it me?
I asked,
About as bright as a full eclipse.
yeah.
Ryuji Utsuho.
This guy makes sure I pronounce him right.
I'm performing a weeb check.
He's my weak chick. But she is in charge of the sun underground that helps warm up the geyser, the hot springs, and all that fun stuff. If you want to go there, feel free to check it out. Just don't go into the reactor part. She'll probably kill you because she thinks that getting rid of people means killing them.
It's a lot like Hotel California.
Yeah.
You can't ever leave?
You can leave, but you can never check out.
Oh, okay. Wrong way.
You can check out, but you can never leave.
This is me.
Yep.
One thing I wanted to talk about before I
Oh.
went into Tsugumugami characters is kind of the idea of Gijinka, which is Japanese for like sort of like saying humanization or humanization. I don't know. It basically means taking something that is not human and making it into a human, like some sort of phenomena or an object or anything really. So it's like representing a thing as a human, kind of like in Kankore where they have a whole bunch of battleships as little girls.
Yeah. Or the more common one, cat girls and wolf boys and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, same sort of idea. And what Zune did with a lot of characters for Touhou is he took supernatural things that happened in old folklore or direct characters and just kind of made them into human characters, specifically girls, aside from a couple exceptions. And that's kind of what he did with the Tsukumogami characters. And Tsukumogami means kind of like kami of Tool, which would normally get translated as god of Tool, but it's not really entirely accurate to say just god. It's because kami can mean like a spirit or some sort of supernatural phenomena, but it can also mean god, so it's sort of a kind of a looser term than the word god. So what happens is it can be a being or a spirit or someone who died, then their spirit roams on like a dead soul or something, or even a force of nature of some sort. And but most commonly they're known as objects that serve under their masters. That's I was thinking of I said Tsukumogami, but I meant to say Wait, no, that is Tsuku Mogami. Sorry. I got off track there for a second. I looked at my notes wrong. I messed up. But anyway, they're most commonly known as objects that serve under a master like tools for up to 100 years and then are granted their own soul and become sentient. And oftentimes with legends around Tsuku Mogami, they are often left neglected by their owners, or their owners die off or something and they become resentful because of it and will cause all kinds of mischief with that maliciousness. And so that brings us to our first Tsuku Mogami, which is Kogasa Tatara.
Well, it's kind of like if one of your friends just leave you alone for a couple hours and you're wondering why they did, then you're wondering, I wonder what it would feel like to strangle them.
Yeah.
That's how they feel, except add a few hundred years.
Yeah.
Senpai didn't notice me. Now it's time to murder Senpai.
You stop that.
So basically, Kogasa, our favorite umbrella master with a tongue, is basically the humanization of Karakasa, which is a Tsuku Mogami of a umbrella that was left behind in the real world and somehow drifted into Gensokyo, which turned it into a kami, Tsuku Mogami. And that's what it is, humanization of it.
Looks like an eggplant, doesn't it? You should tell her that.
I'm sure she'll love it. Next one is, let's see, Medicine Melancholy, which
Aren't
is...
those puppets adorable? Don't you just want to hug them?
Who hates puppets?
Nah. Not fair.
Which I suppose with her being in poison or whatever, maybe she had an owner she didn't like or something, and she became kind of upset with humans through that, and thus became all anti-human, I guess. I don't really know how to put that.
Well, the deal was she was abandoned by her human ventriloquist, but she did lay into the field of flowers which were full of poison.
Yeah, Lily of the Valley.
Yeah, Lily of the Valley. So she soaked up all the poison. She got the ability to use poison as well. And she has a poisonous personality too.
She's an awful person to fight on. 9.
I don't know, I had an easier time with her. But
And
anyway,
then we have Ben Tsukumo, which is basically this humanization of a biwa, which I suppose that's just an instrument that became sentient after lots and lots and lots of use.
these they're not really as mischievous because they enjoyed the tunes that their owners played. So they're a little bit more kinder spirited, but they will every once in a while like to sneak up on you, play their instruments, and just surprise the hell out of you. And of course that's how they get their food too, by surprise. Which I'm wondering how Kogasa actually eats. But you know.
She's a blacksmith, though.
Metallica concerts would be so much more
I heard
better.
she's a really good babysitter. You should consider her.
No, in the manga, she was a blacksmith.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's been all kinds of things.
And it's important to note that the instruments themselves are the creatures, and the figures that are either using the instruments or using the tools are sort of like ghastly projection.
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you look at the Pokemon Wobuffet, where the Wobuffet's actually the little black part and not the big blue part. Same
That's
kind of
exactly a
deal.
good description right there. But moving on.
And then the last one, Hata no Kokoro, which is the 66 masks of Hata no Kawakatsu.
66 Shido masks.
Don't have. This is actually based off of a legendary figure who could do the 99 mass dance. Was 66, my bad. But along the way, well, it was 66, but it was a he, and the person actually lost his mask. So he went on a journey to go find it, and he started to get more and more violent about it, kind of like, you know, the Touhou character. But he was really famous among emperors and all kinds of different lords. Then for a while he disappeared after he found his missing mask. Then he was found later on an island just outside of Japan, and apparently he got to where he no longer did plays, but he played tricks on people and just scared them away. And a sad tale, but it was kind of an interesting one at the same time. And also, the That was actually the only photo I could find because this was a really tough one to look up.
What, Manraki?
Yeah. Reason for that is there's really not that much information because it was kind of lost in transit after a while because nobody really talks about it because it was one of the less popular ones. And because of the tale that followed with the guy scaring people off and playing tricks on them, they wanted to keep them a secret and just make them go away.
Yeah. And a lot of problems was also with a lot of the older translations that were in the 50s and 60s. And a lot of the post-war translations, a lot was lost translating it from English or from its native language to English, and because a lot of the language is different, whether it's contextual, turn of phrase, or kind of the local language that they have. So, looking up some of the folklore and trying to find some of the actual stories with proper translations is somewhat impossible.
Really difficult. It was, looking up folklore and legends is really difficult because some of their legends come from Chinese that have been translated to Japanese and back to Chinese, and then some kind of ocean island along the way to where they have 3,000 different languages over there. It just really gets scrabbled up, then it just doesn't make any sense after a while. Kind of like Old English.
Or the telephone game, if anybody's played it. You sit in a circle and whisper one. You whisper a sentence and then it kind of gets jumbled on the way back until you get something completely different. So.
Yep. But moving away from that, of course, in Tokyo, we got more than just Shinto and different instruments that try to scare you or entertain you, usually scare you. And we're going to move along to Buddhism a little bit, and then we start with the famous temple.
Gyoen Temple.
Used to be a nice little flying ship, but now it's a full-fledged temple where anyone is welcome. Yokai, humans, in fact...
Except for Taoists.
Yeah, well, they're welcome too.
No Taoists allowed.
No Moonanites allowed.
They park in Gensokyo. They park their temple ship right on top of the Taoist temple. So there's not. They don't play nice. They don't play nice.
They never have played nice.
No,
At least
they don't.
the Taoists never have. But in Buddhism, there's maybe a couple of gods, but not too many. It's more of the humanization of being ideas and being without materials, living on the bare minimum and just enjoying life what brings you. But we will go over one because, there's a couple of Touhou characters that come from the Buddhist idealism. And the most famous one is the one that seems to be on fire.
Vice Governor.
Showtime.
It's showtime.
Bishimolten.
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 Yeah, Bishimolten. You playing God?
Oh yes. And that was
He's the avatar.
he's the avatar for Sho Toramaru.
No, show.
Okay, so
Sho is the avatar for
Bishamonten, which is this guy, is a war god, and he's also one of the 7 gods of fortune in Japanese Buddhism. And Sho Toramaru,
Toramaru.
which is this drunkard, is one of his avatars. It's true, he goes on drunken rampages. True facts, there was a Sho cosplayer at AWA that went on a drunken rampage and destroyed his own arcade cabinet. Like ironic and hilarious in the ironic sense. So Sho and also Bishamonten, he's assigned to guard the places that Buddha had taught at, and also to guard the treasure house, which he's carrying, but also to give its treasure freely to those who ask for it.
Yep. And the reason behind Sho is she's actually just the avatar because the god claimed he was too busy to guard the temple whenever the monk asked for his blessing. So instead, she told him to go find an avatar for him. And which he did, which was a yokai tiger, and basically Sho is now studying under the monk of the temple and doing the usual bit that the war god does.
Go on drunken rampage.
She's actually pretty nice. It's I think the mouse, her mouse companion, Nazareth. She
what she keeps him in line.
So what's with the spear and the lantern exactly? I get the spear, but what's with the pagoda lantern thingy?
The pagoda is the idealization of the treasure house that show guards.
Yep.
So that's why when he loses it in unidentified flying object, that's why he's going nuts looking for it. And that's why he sends Nazarene after it.
Gotcha.
But that contains the riches of Buddha, but also it's for free distribution, for those who ask for it.
Because Buddha didn't believe in riches, he believed in
To
distribution.
teach you where asking things nicely can take you.
Exactly. Say please.
Don't be a jerk.
And that's a little short thing about Yep. And of course, like he said, it was just one of the gods of fortune. There's quite a few and go into depths in that, but let's talk about a few more fun things. One of the things I wanted to talk about were hermits. These were another way that we all wanted to talk about to go into celestial or godhood, was to become a hermit. Huh?
So you talking about celestial or what?
No, you're talking about celestial. I'm just talking about the steps into becoming a celestial.
Okay.
And this is one of the steps. Of course, when most people think of hermits, they think of that guy with the long beard that covers their entire body and go, or just the ones that pick out a shell on the beach and just go. But hermits are also try to be pure body and pure mind.
Some of them.
Some of them. That's why I emphasize try to. Of course, some don't try, they just don't care. But they still do studies, they focus on purifying their body. And once they get up enough in a few hundred years, it gets to where they only need mist to live. And I'm going to go over a few hermits. I already displayed one. This is kind of your typical hermit. Sometimes you can look like a pretty, awesome wizard to be a hermit. Gandalf's got nothing. And like he mentioned before, some try to be, and there's some people who pretend to be hermits. There's your wizard, and you got your pretend hermits who come from an unknown origin. They act like hermits, but they actually aren't hermits. And you wonder, what are they up to? Other than trying to figure out what happened to their arm.
She's a diva.
She's a diva.
She is a diva.
Nothing's been proven yet.
It is heavily implied she's a diva.
It is implied, but it's not proven.
Yes.
I want my proof.
The story is still being written. It
Yeah.
hasn't been finished yet. It's going to turn out she's a diva.
Then, of course, we got the hermits that, like I said, don't care about being good. We call those wicked hermits. We got the...
Seija Kaku.
Yes, she loves the...
Seija.
Okay, no. And
Blue and runs around the screen.
yeah, she does. She likes to run around. She likes to make improper deals with people. And she really loves to make holes in the side of buildings and whatever she wants to go through. Just all around cause all kinds of trouble for people who just don't care. But the reason I brought her up is there's actually a story behind her too. Who knows who this guy is? Probably no one, because I had a hard time finding this picture too. This is actually a Chinese story. Hohan.
About one.
It's actually based on another story, which I tried to read through. It is very long. Do you remember the name of that? I showed it to you. Yeah.
I don't remember.
I wrote it
just
down.
remember the butchered version of it.
Yeah, it's super long. There's so many abridged stories. But I'll give you the abridged story of it. Basically, there is a guy who's plowing the fields that wants to see this very noble guy's daughter, which becomes really creepy once I describe it to you. He wants to marry her and all that stuff. When you know what you do with pretty girls back in the day. So this passing hermit gives him a magical plow which could go through anything. So he uses that plow to go through her house while she's sleeping.
And steal her away.
Yep, and steal her away. Sega's power is based off of that. Now, is it related to that hermit? Could it be the same hermit? Probably, because he is from China, apparently.
Yeah, and Sun has a tendency to turn everybody female. There's only one guy in Gensokyo. So doesn't matter
That's
where
himself.
Pretty much, they'll have to write it.
There's 3 actually, but like only one actually does anything.
Yeah.
Well, on that, they do mention males like Marissa's dad's still alive,
Yeah, exactly.
operating
Yomu's dad is mentioned a few times.
Yeah.
Oh, Yoki.
So he disappeared somewhere. But
Of course, he goes wandering. He's a
Yep.
wandering swordsman.
is this the? Oh, here's my favorite one. Now, who knows who this guy is? I'll give you a hint. He's a prince.
Shotoko.
No one? Well, it looks like he guessed it. It's Prince Shotoko. And what is his relation?
Yeah.
Toyo
Toyo
Sada no
Satsumini no Miko.
Toyota no Miko.
We'll call her Toyota for short. Drive places. But the prince actually has an elaborate story. He's an actual figure a long time ago. And as you can see, they both use the same wooden stick. But he went around to spread Buddhism for the longest time. And he went to different areas, talked about, the enlightenment and all that fun stuff. When he was really heavily praised by emperors and lords and was often invited, and they claimed he had this ability to listen to 10 conversations at the same time.
And give 10 different answers.
Yeah.
It's not like 10 people are talking and he's only listening to one.
Yeah, not like I can. I'm like, no, you be quiet. I need to listen to this guy.
What if he was asked a bunch of simple yes/no questions?
He would
Yes,
give them
no,
all
yes,
yes/no
no,
questions.
yes,
Or yes/no answers.
Maybe.
They have to be 10 different answers. You can only give 2.
Well, it was answers to 10 different questions, so it was technically 10 different answers.
Yeah. And towards the end, he actually was buried supposedly where the Miko was risen, because he was buried deep in what are those things called?
Sepulcher.
No, that's actually the name.
Mausoleum.
Yeah, he was buried in a deep mausoleum along with a few of his followers. And of course, a few thousand years later, it's now a girl and has massive bed hair and somehow got headphones.
Shops at Beats by Dr. Dre.
She was wearing them before they were cool.
They're cool.
But, and of course, like the rest of the hermits, finally you get that part where you're good enough to go to heaven. And what do we do in heaven?
Sit around, drink a lot, play games, play pranks on people. And so there's also a certain type of hermit that kind of ascends into celestial status, where either the hermit lives long enough to be considered immortal, even though they're not immortal in the truest sense, or they achieve enlightenment through nirvana, and they kind of ascend to this like half deity status or demigod status. And they're not immortal in a sense because the Shinigami keep coming after them. They're just able to defeat them or run away. In the case of Sega, so they're really just a bunch of punks because they like to play pranks on people. They like to tease and have fun and just party all the time. There's really two toes of note. There's Iku Nagai, who's the messenger of the dragon god, and then there's also Tenshi Hinanawi. And there is an interesting, oh yeah, Peach Girl with the butt on her hat.
Butt hat.
Butt hat.
You do a butt hat.
All right. No
So
look at the
there-
butt hat. We need to censor that.
I know, right? So there's an interesting tidbit along celestials is that when they become a celestial, they're given a divine veil by whatever patron god they have. And if a human is able to steal the veil, they have to live on Earth and marry whatever human has stolen the veil. So a lot of times they start kind of dropping their veils, kind of like a lady might drop her handkerchief for a handsome young gallant to come pick up and marry. So later on in the folklore, they become more of a commodity that's bought and sold at a general store instead of being found. Because being tied to a celestial who is immortal, attacked by Shinigami on occasion, and also loves to just cause trouble is not really something I'd want.
Actually, I'm going to have to correct you there. They're not attacked by Shinigami.
Yes, they are.
They're attacked by Kinshi.
Or Kinshi.
The Shinigami have nothing to do with it. They just boast about that because they want to look like they're important, other than taking souls to where they need to be. Come on, you know, ancient creatures like to lie because they're bored.
Of course they do.
What else are they going to do? Tell the truth? No one's going to ask them questions after that.
You'd be like, oh, that's boring. That's why you have to create folklore. Why?
Yep.
The basic point is that they just fight, instead of like accepting death, they actually fight off the Grim Reaper themselves.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're getting battles with the Grim Reapers and run away. Most of them run away.
Yeah.
And speaking of
Tenchi's just
which,
but
yeah,
Tenchi just likes getting bites.
and get beat up.
she's a sadist.
Masochist.
Masochist. I get
And
those-
she is a masochist.
Masochist, yes. She likes to rope a lot.
Okay. All right.
But
This is
speaking
a-
of Shinigamis and death and all that, I found out this little interesting bit. There was really no designated person of origin that would come and take people over. It was actually more of you were waiting to go somewhere. The concept of the Grim Reaper and death and all that came from the western part, and of course the most popular one, the Grim Reaper. And this was hilarious. Someone actually pointed this out. The Grim Reaper really likes to people like to give the Grim Reaper a lot of grief. And there's no reason for that. He didn't kill you. He's just there to guide you somewhere. So you should be thanking him for guiding you.
Shoot the messenger.
Yeah, shoot the messenger, really. But yeah, he also goes by a lot of names: Death, Grim Reaper, Angel of Death. But he's your guidance to the afterlife. Chiron is actually a different guy. In fact, he's this one right down here. He is the ferryman for the River of Styx. And you would have to pay him to go across. And that was a very popular ceremony in Roman and Greek era, which you would toss them 2 coins so they could pay the ferryman to cross to get judged.
You'd also place them on the eyes because there was a long-standing belief that the eyes were the windows to the soul. And also immediately after death, it's become a popular Hollywood myth that you can close somebody's eyes. You know, they do the whole dramatic thing where they pass their hand over and close your eyes. You can't do that. Rigor mortis sets in, and their eyes are going to be stuck open if they died with their eyes open. So in order to weight their eyelids down, they would put coins on top of their eyes.
That is actually pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's a doctor, he knows this.
In training. I'm not yet.
Well, still, you know more than I do.
Not yet.
But we
We're
combine this.
getting there.
Yeah. But we combine these two, and we got the very popular and very best Shinigami that you wouldn't know to date, Komachi Onizuka. Yeah, you give her a lot of grief because she's lazy and all that, but she still does her job well. She just does it when she needs to be there. Of course, she's the ferryman you gotta pay. How Senzu River is a bit like the River Styx, only there's supposed to be 3 locations where you're supposed to go, and each location depends on what you did in a previous life. The shorter the route, which means is how wealthy your soul is. And the wealth of your soul depends on how much you helped in life, not how rich you were. In fact, the rich people all went to the longest route or got thrown into the river. And if you got thrown into the river, you were denied the afterlife. The monsters of the river would make sure of that. But in Jitsokyo, it's a little bit different. You would give her an amount of money, and depending on how much you give her was how long it took to cross the river. So she had the power of distance and all that fun stuff. And of course, once you were able to cross the river and able to stand her talking for endless amounts of time without jumping into the river,
You met Judge Dredd.
Judge Dredd. You got to see the Yama King. Or just a Yama. Yeah.
Who wants to see that guy?
Who wants to see him?
Yes.
I want to see him. He looks,
I'm never going to see him.
I really like his beard. He has a good beard. But the Yama, of course, was the one who decided what your fate was going to be in the afterlife by looking into your past actions and all that fun stuff. And of course, the Touhou relation of that was
Shikeki.
I am the law.
I am the law.
Yamajanadu. That was hard.
Yeah. And they both, well, I was going to say they both make sure that you do not swim in the lake of fire. They make sure to put a sign up there too.
So if you've seen Dragon Ball Z and the Yama King that Goku meets before he goes on Snake Road,
Mahogany.
same thing. Same deal.
Yep.
In fact, that was one of the routes that some of the folk tales we'll talk about is that Snake Road.
Oh yeah. But there was a lot of different paths you can take after that because, as they say, the afterlife is just the second part of your journey. And because of that, you got to go to a bunch of different places depending on what you did. They're well known for looking into a crystal mirror to just go over everything you did in your lives, or at least the highlights, you know, kind of like ESPN kind of deal. This highlight shows that you gave candy to this kid, but then you later punched him in the face. Children, you can see it right here where the counter of the cheek and the knuckles going across.
Let's watch a quick replay on that.
Let's watch it in slow motion. But here's the most common places you would go to. You get to go to heaven and join the Celestials.
Boring.
You get to go to hell with all the ogres.
Double boring.
Well, one of the layers of hell, depending on what you did. You got to go to, what's the name of that? The Ryu Kogo's.
Haku Yokoru.
Yeah. Or the Netherworld.
Say that one 3 times fast.
Yeah.
Hungry Ghosts.
Yeah. Well, the most common is the Netherworld, which is basically the Christian version of Purgatory. Yeah.
Where you wait to be reincarnated.
Yep, reincarnated. And if you misbehave, you end.
Yep.
There is no granted after that.
It's a bit funny because I think technically Buddhism is considered one of the bad realms.
Yeah. Kind of is, kind of isn't.
And
It's just
I
where
think
you...
it's because of the Hungry Ghost part, because you have to make sure your soul is eaten.
Yeah.
It's a bit less boring though.
It's basically like you're floating around in nether space and there's a giant vacuum cleaner chasing you around and you don't want to get sucked out by the vacuum cleaner. Sorry, go.
It's like a constant game of burger time, actually, where you're trying to put the burgers together, but you're always being chased by eggs and sausages.
Oh, okay.
And that's endless. You keep on playing that until you get reincarnated. Hopefully it's soon. And speaking of which, that is the fourth choice. You get reincarnated that instant. Because you were good enough, you weren't bad enough, but you didn't, they don't think
came out.
You were right there, you instantly get to go back as another life form.
But you don't get to choose what life you get to go back as.
No.
Could be incarnated as a rat. Could be reincarnated as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. You don't know.
And of course, when you go to hell, you get to mess with the gods of hell, who dresses a little bit punkish, if you ask me.
And look, she's welcome you.
Yeah, she makes sure that you're welcomed here.
She heads up the welcome committee.
Always.
Hell is one giant committee. It's true.
As you know, as the orbs that she holds,
That or Love Live.
I kind of cropped the top one. It was a little difficult to fit this in. But apparently there's a hell on each one. There's, I never left hand. There's a hell on Earth. There's a hell on Moon, which most of the Moonanites belong on.
No, we're in paradise. The hell on the moon is the moon that the astronauts landed on, okay? Barren, cold, desolate, just like
Actually,
my wife.
Don't forget there's that one.
Spoiler alert, I'm not married.
I won't go into full detail, but there's that one girl out there who has the ability to transfer the moon from reality to fantasy.
Yes, one of my nephews. One of your nieces. What? You want to tell the entire class that?
No, they don't need to hear it. But on the top of her head, the red orb is the hell of other worlds. Now, what other worlds? Who knows? But the story I was mentioning earlier about the three crows is she often talks with. the recent one?
Like, Junko.
Junko. She often talks with Junko, who was the... just Junko's fine.
Junko.
Junko.
Junko in the trunk.
Who is... Come on now. We're too old for these puns.
No.
But she is the Chinese lore of the moon. Moon goddess of the rabbits, basically.
Jane.
Yeah.
Are you watching Jane?
In fact, the first Apollo landing, and I'm not going on this debate that it was fake or real, I'm just saying that there was this transcript in which they told the people who were landing on the moon to watch out for bunnies and for a moon goddess.
Yeah, NASA actually told astronauts Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin to look out for moon rabbits.
And moon goddess.
Yes, and Cheney.
Now,
and as an aside, it was proved that it was technically impossible to fake the moon landings by a videographer of 30 years of expertise.
yeah.
He methodically broke it down to the point where there is no possible way that they could fake it using a soundstage. Go on.
I was asking for time real quick.
You went to 1:30, so you're good.
Wanted to make sure we got time to explain this. Awesome. So, she was married to a husband, and their kids were actually the three-legged crows, the 10 sons. And one day, the 10 sons decided, hey, this is boring, we're gonna do something fun. And they all decided to rise up together, which caused a massive drought in China. Well, there was a famous god archer at the time.
Tsuyokomi.
Yeah, Tsuyokomi. And,
Tsukiyomi.
Tsukiyomi. And he was charged, he was one of the best archers you could know. So the Lord asked him to go shoot down all the sons until they started behaving. So he shot down 9 of the sons until the first one's like, hey, I'm cool,
Okay.
I'll go down, I'm cool, I'll do it. But because of that, Junko was extremely mad at the archer and wanted heavy revenge against him, of course. And supposedly that led to his madness. Later on, he was forced to be killed by a mob of people. First, he was challenged to an archer by his disciple.
Disciple rival.
Yeah. Well, first it was his disciple, but his disciple saw all the wrongdoing it was coming up with, raiding and just killing random people, just doing mad stuff. And eventually he challenged him to an archery contest, and he lost. But he found out that a mob of people works just as well against an archer. So they clubbed him to death. The other joke of that was, he was the reason that Apollo 11 was the only one that made it to the moon.
The first.
Yeah, because the first didn't even launch. That was a grim one. But the other 2 had all kinds of malfunctions. They couldn't get up, or they floated up and eventually had to drop back down.
But shots.
Yeah. And eventually it was number 11 that he decided to let go. I guess he got tired, or he was sleeping that day.
Maybe he ran out of arrows.
He never runs out of arrows. Actually, that was part of the legend. Apparently he had the quilt of
Magic arrows.
Magic arrows. Kind of like one. Yeah. So you had this rivalry and all that, and that's where the mythology of the 3 crows come in, and all that fun stuff. Now moving on to another thing. As he was mentioning earlier, a lot of this stuff got lost in translation. But we actually have one guy that I'd like to talk about real quick. Anyone remember who this is?
Hearn.
Yep. Lucario Hearn. He's the one we have to thank for keeping all these stories. He went to village by village and started collecting stories, writing them down, and even publishing them. And he did this and pretty much for the longest time. In fact, do you remember his Japanese name? Because he married a Japanese woman. Huh?
Yakumo.
Yeah, Yakumo. And in fact, the joke is he was the first original weeaboo. Because his original origin, he's an Irish Greeksman from one of the islands. And he first he traveled all the way through America, and he actually did a nice book in the 1980s about New Orleans. Then they finally sent him all the way to Japan. Now something happened in Japan. There was something wrong with his publisher or something, but they told the entire crew to go back, but he didn't want to, because he was finding all this fascinating culture, and so he traveled around and started getting different stories. And because of that, he was able to preserve the history and the folklore of course, all that you know that is today of Touhou. And of course, when you think of Touhou, you gotta think of somebody else, the god of beer, basically. You can see him in his true form right now. And make sure to still have his hat on, because that is a symbol.
Yeah.
And like usual, we gotta thank Zoom for bringing this out, for cleverly and putting all these characters into a, you know, entertaining us, making them shoot lasers at each other, and
I have PTSD about this show's curvy lasers.
hey, it's got to be challenging somehow.
Everyone does.
Yeah.
That wasn't challenging, that was just being a dick.
So while Hearn helped preserve the history, Soon helped preserve the history just with lasers. And honestly, that helps a lot, because you don't know much about these characters, and because it's tied in with a lot of mythology. So you want to look up characters, you end up bringing a good part of history of Japan and other mythology that surrounds it, and from Chinese, even outside folklore, from the Greeks, Romans, and all kinds of fun stuff.
It's like the Wikipedia game, where you start on one article and then you click through one link to the next link and then to the next link, and then you look at the clock and you realize it's 4 o'clock in the morning and you've got work the next morning.
You got like 50 tabs open.
Yeah, it's like, oh, it's 2 hours. I'm just going to read a bit more. I'll be fine at work.
Or YouTube.
4 hours of work.
Yourself in the strange parts of YouTube.
Then you're woken up by your boss later. How much time do we got?
We have about
8 minutes.
8 minutes. So we got some time for questions.
Time for questions. We made that perfect. Anyone
About the Touhou Project. About
Touhou Project,
Folklore.
mythology.
Did you ever watch the Red Data Girl?
The what now?
The anime Red Data Girl?
I have not.
It's got a lot of mythology tied up in it.
What kind of mythology?
Japanese.
Mostly,
I was,
okay.
I was kind of at a loss, but it's, I think you'd probably be able to pick it apart.
All right. I'll have to look it up later.
It's fairly recent.
In fact, that's one of the main reasons I got into Touhou, was because all the mythology, it kind of curved into that.
Yeah, this covers it really good. They're talking about actually being a historical, what do they say? It's kind of like the monuments that they declared the missions, historical.
State parks. Or historical markers.
Yeah, type thing.
Okay. And they would fight some kind of mythical creature or whatnot?
Well-
or help some kind of mythical figure?
No, it's kind of complicated.
Okay. Tell you what, tell me about it later.
panel.
And I would like to learn more about that. Anyone else have a mythology question? A
Touhou question, panelist question.
you?
What got you into Touhou? I mean, you already said your stuff, but what about the others?
Okay. I actually it is a little bit of a story. Well, in high school, I had to do a huge, it was a choose your own research paper.
Oh,
and
yeah.
it started in religion, actually. And when I got done with this, it was about four pages. Don't ask me what it says, because I was kind of half asleep when I did most of it, as I am with most schoolwork. And I started realizing, hey, all these older religions have a lot of stories behind them. So it first started out with Greek mythology and all that, learning about Messias and all kinds of others. Atlas, who was the giant that held up the sky.
Oh, the world.
Sky world, yeah. And of course I read the Tale of the Three Golden Apples, which Hercules had to help him hold it up. Then it went into Roman mythology, which is practically almost interchangeable right there. Only you got planets named after them because they had the money to do so. I love your sign, thank you. It needs to be in a bikini next time, though. So it just went from there, and I know what I like.
Men in bikinis, okay.
No one knew that. The camera was facing this way. Now you just ruined it all.
You're welcome.
Jerk. So then from there, and I started getting into Chinese mythology, and because they had a long history of it.
Oh, yeah.
And I was reading stuff like the Three Kingdoms and all kinds of stuff. In fact, I really liked the Dynasty Warrior series because of that. Then, of course, it then went to Buddhism. Then it finally curved into Japanese folklore. I'm like, hey, they got a bunch of inanimate objects that like to kill people. Let's find out more. I don't know, I found the bouncing umbrella with the long tongue fascinating because apparently it likes to smother you with his tongue, and that's how you suffocate. Also a game that...
now we know what he likes.
Yeah. Hey, I like creatures that do things. Jeez. Break my balls some more.
Every day.
Yeah, and eventually it did lead into Touhou, because by that time, you know, a few Touhou games have already came out. And it was talking about them, like, oh, what's this? It's about folklore. It's like, are they shooting stuff from them? What are they using? They're using guns? No, they're just floating around using lasers. I think I like this already. And that's pretty much it in a nutshell. How about you? Why don't you answer?
Mine is considerably shorter. 4chan thread hijacks.
There we go.
Not as noble either.
I was in high school. I saw some cool images. I looked it up on Danbrew. I was like, I've got to play this.
Well, mine's a bit shorter too. I just, while I was in high school, a friend gave me a copy of Touhou 6, and then he got me into the fighter games, and I played the crap out of 12.3 Sosen Soku for like 3 years. And that got me into reading Curiosities of Lotus Age, and that got me more into the folklore of it. That's about it.
Actually, speaking of which, since we got a little bit more time, I could mention this. I know there's a fighting game based on Shinto versus Buddhism versus
Urban
Taoism.
Legend and Limbo.
Yeah, and I actually looked that up a little bit, and it wasn't really that they were enemies to a point, they were just political rivals. But even then, the Tao actually adopted the Buddhist temples. And the Buddhists actually adopted the Tao's going around and spreading their stuff, their religion. And the ones and it was hilarious, the ones they hated the most was Confucianism. And they really wanted to push those guys out the most while helping each other spread out.
Of course, you get a common enemy.
Yeah.
And then you go back to fighting.
Let's
not mention the Taoist monk that murdered his friends. Mononobe no Futo.
Yeah.
Set fire to Buddhist temples. Oh yeah, they really don't like each other.
Oh yeah. That was that clan ended quickly once that happened.
Yeah, that escalated quickly. It's kind of like when Disney puts on Cinderella, and then you go back and you read the original Tale of Cinderella, where the stepdaughters cut off parts of their feet to fit into the shoes, and then at the end they're clapped in hot iron shoes. Yeah. That's why they're called Grimm's fairy tales.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hell, all of them were like that. Hell, Red Riding Hood was probably even more grim.
Well, yeah, but this is a PG panel, so we can't discuss that one.
Well, you already mentioned cut off in feet.
Yeah, but that,
I mean,
it's a little guru, but Red Riding Hood goes into another.
Yeah, then you got Little Mermaid. The mermaid actually did die at the end.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, we've got about a minute left.
Yes.
Any final questions?
Yep. Any?
Short
No
questions.
one?
What's your favorite game?
Club Penguin.
Habib Hotel.
RuneScape though.
No, Imperishable Night has a special place. Although I like Legacy of Lunatic Kingdom too. even though Clown Police is a pain.
Which one was 11?
Subterranean Animism.
Yeah, that one was actually my favorite. Despite my character favorite being Komachi Onisuko, the game wasn't that great. I'll try, but it's kind of hard.
Okay.
But I didn't like that one too much because it was way too easy for me. It felt like this dump of difficulty that I was used to, which I still can't beat in most games. I still can't beat number 11, even though it's my favorite.
I've gotten close.
That's why it's called Subterranean Aneurysm. Because you will get that stressed out. Okay, so as like a last minute thing, who is familiar with the Touhou Project? Who's completely new to it? Who is completely lost by this panel?
Okay. Actually, that is a good idea. We can't give
You're always lost.
We can't give you a website because this panel definitely wasn't covering exactly what Touhou Project was. But we can give you a website where you can discover it yourself, and that will help you look deeper into the mythology as well. It's one of those fun tags things. If you want that website, I'll give it to you right after we get wrapped up here. Yeah.
Right.
In fact, I think we can wrap up now, right?
Yeah, that's it.
Yep, that's it. Hope
You
you all
got
enjoyed
any-
it. If you have any more personal questions that you were too shy to ask, feel free to come up.